And when you show this demo to data engineers or to CTOs, how do they react?
They get super excited. They get super excited.
Yes. Any favorite feature they have?
The one that I showed you where you can filter the graph, and most importantly, the column lineage.
Mm-hmm.
The column lineage is key because what someone has built this, 6 months later, you hired somebody to look into this and they have to modify it. So that itself would take a lot of time. If you were writing all of this as code, you have to go into the code, sift through that, understand those dependencies. Here, with a couple of clicks, I can not only understand, but I can also make a change pretty quickly.
Satish and Armon, co-founders of Coalesce. Welcome to Powered by Snowflake.
Thanks, Felipe. Pleasure to be here.
I'm very happy to see you again, and I'm very happy to talk about Coalesce and how we put the T in ELT. And you are, for those that don't know you, you are co-founders of Coalesce, you are the CTO, you are the CEO. But before we talk about being CTO and CEO, what is Coalesce?
Yeah, good question. What Coalesce is, I think, is easier to explain when you think about the problem that we solve. And what we found throughout our career working with some of the world's largest, most complex data warehouses and use cases was that typically organizations struggle the most at taking data once it's landed in its raw format in Snowflake and getting it to the point that it's actually consumable for any upstream use case, whether that's business intelligence or AI use cases. Really building out that data foundation is where companies spend the most amount of time, resources, and energy trying to get the data to that consumable format. And Coalesce is aimed at accelerating any implementation on Snowflake for building out that data foundation for data practitioners of all skill sets. So we want to democratize the data engineering work the same way that Snowflake democratized the access to the data cloud, but apply that same philosophy to all the development work that goes on and all the management that goes on when interacting with Snowflake's platform.
So help every data engineer working with data in Snowflake go from raw data to wherever they want to go.
Yeah, and one of the coolest thing is it's not just data engineers, it's any developer. So it could be a data analyst, it could be a data architect, but we want to focus on helping anybody that's interacting with Snowflake be exponentially more productive than any other alternative they could ever use when it comes to implementing a Snowflake project.
And then how do you divide your responsibilities between CEO and CTO?
We had a really great complementary skill set between Satish and I, and we've worked together in the past before as well, which was how we got the genesis of the idea to start Coalesce. And so our roles, although there's some overlap, I would say is pretty delineated between my focus being on go-to-market and business development, and Satish is on, I'll let him share.
Yeah. I have a technology background, so my focus is setting the product vision, understanding the space and the trends that are happening, and also execute the roadmap in a timely manner.
Exactly. So we have how we go to market and we have a product vision and we both come together and you work on the implementation of it.
Correct.
And how's your relationship with Snowflake?
We love Snowflake. One of the things that was interesting about our company is that prior to starting Coalesce, we had worked with Snowflake at a very early stage. And I want to say that Snowflake was between 100 to 200 employees. And it was there that we saw what was going to become such an amazing ecosystem to work with. So there was the platform itself, which is incredible, but there was also the ecosystem and how partner-centric it is. And so when we started Coalesce, we focused on building this platform exclusively for Snowflake because we knew that this was going to be the best platform for our customers. And that decision has stayed true still to this day and has been one that we certainly are fond of having made. And it's allowed us to move as efficiently as possible, both between working with Snowflake's go-to-market team, as well as delivering functionality that unlocks anything that Snowflake's capable of to be done within the Coalesce platform so much more easily and so much more efficiently for any type of developer.
Yeah, that sounds like such a nice thing to bring to Snowflake users. How do they react when they see Coalesce and what it can do for them?
They say, where the hell were you my entire life? and the Snowflake team says, so basically what I just spent a day learning in our last training session, you just showed me in 20 minutes on how we can accomplish it. And different customers, different implementations that we show our product to, people pretty quickly see how much more simple we make complex things and how much faster they can move by leveraging our platform on Snowflake.
And the fun part of Powered by Snowflake is that we are going to see this in action.
Absolutely.
Satish, you have a demo for us today.
Yes.
What is this demo going to be about?
So I'm going to show you how to build a pipeline really quick, a DAG, and also share some information on how customers can use our node types, that what we call node types on our marketplace, and how they can use Snowflake's Cortex functions, for example, within few clicks.
So we're going to start from zero to build a pipeline and end up with ML.
That's right.
That sounds pretty cool. Before we go into the demo, anything that people should know?
Our platform is built for every data practitioner. Anybody who wants to leverage Snowflake, effectively, they need a tool like ours to be able to not only set the architecture, but also ability to build pipelines really fast.
So this empowers data engineers, but also everyone can become a kind of data engineer.
That's correct.
Let's go into the demo.
Before we jump into the demo, at a high level, this is pretty much any company that's going on a data project's architecture. You've got sources of data coming from all different types of source systems, whether it's applications, IoT data, servers, mobile, and you need to take that data in its raw format and get it loaded into Snowflake as quickly and easily as possible. And that whole process has been largely automated. Really where organizations have the most struggles is taking that raw data once it's landed and all the typically manual processes associated with getting it to the point where it's consumable for any type of upstream use case, whether that's data science, business intelligence, AI use cases. And Coalesce is focused on taking what was historically very manual, time-consuming, labor-intensive processes and automating as many of them as possible for a audience of users that is more broadly applicable than has ever been seen before. And that's really the focus of what you're going to see in this demo today is how does Coalesce automate all the processes that historically have been manual and time-consuming and tedious for any data practitioner.
I like it. And we end with results. But we start with raw data, and that's what we are going to see now.
That's correct. What you're looking at here is a couple of projects that I have, a collaboration project and a default project, and a few workspaces. I have this dev workspace. I can launch that workspace. It's an empty workspace. I'm going to build a graph here and show you how to build this DAG pretty quickly. At the top, you see the build, the deploy, and the docs. So basically, under the build tab, you're building the pipeline, and with deploy, you're going to deploy that to a target environment. We fully have like Git integrated into this. So you first check in into the version control and then go from there to deploy it to your target environment. And then docs is we generate automatically all the relevant documentation, detailed documentation, which I'm going to show as well. So the data is in Snowflake. So the first thing that I'm going to do is start with that raw data that we mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and say add sources, and I can see all the schemas and the databases that I have access to in Snowflake. I can sample the data if I want to see how the data looks. So I can see that's customer data. I can add one node, or I can add all these nodes at once. And these are going to show up in my workspace.
TPCH is a classic.
That's the classic sample database.
Customer data,
schema.
orders, parts, line items.
That's correct.
Cool.
And I click on any one of these. I can look at the columns. I can look at the data types, and so on. So let's say I want to start transforming the data. Now I want to build an end user table based on customer. The first thing that I may want to do is build this, what we call like a staging layer. So in this case, it's called like a work node. And as you can see, all the columns are copied over. And on the right-hand side, you have certain configuration options that I can set. For example, hey, do I want to create this as a table? Or do I want to create this as a view? Or something else, And I can also add transformation rules. So for example, if I want to change this into an uppercase, I can easily add that rule here. I can also do things like I can duplicate columns and so on. And this transformation rules, they can be as complicated as they need to be. So there's no limitation on that. Anything that works on Snowflake would work here. So I'm going to go ahead and create this, and the DDL gets generated, the data definition language. You can always see what's happening behind the scenes. You can see the create statement, and you can also run it. So now the data gets populated. Now, once you prepare that data like that, now I'm going to say, hey, here's my end user table. In this case, I'm going to do a dimension table. And all we do is just right click and add that dimension node. The configuration options are going to be different here because this is a different type of node. Here, we still have the ability to do it as a table or as a view, but also in addition, I have a business key setting that I can set. I can do things like change tracking. For example, I want to track changes to phone numbers and addresses. I can easily just click that. We also added some additional columns like system columns, version, row version numbers, and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and create, and I'm going to run this as well. Now, as I said, you can see the SQL that's being run, and that's being generated behind the scenes. I'm going to show you in a second what that SQL looks like. So those are the results. The table has been created and loaded, but you can always see what that SQL looks like. In this case, it's a merge statement, a whole bunch of code that went in and got generated in a few clicks.
And when we're talking about dimensions, this is data modeling.
That's correct.
And Coalesce helps you with best practices for data modeling?
Absolutely. So our recommendation is you want to model as you go. You know, a lot of times people do modeling as a separate exercise. Then they realize that the model doesn't work because the data that they thought was right is no longer fits the model. So in this case, we are building as we go. When we get it right, you're pretty much done.
Nice.
Now, I can do this staging layer on multiple columns at multiple nodes at once. Like, for example, I want to do, region, maybe I want to do supplier and part, and I want to create a staging layer. Again, I can do this in bulk. In one shot, I can get a stage layer. I can also do things like, hey, I want to create dimensions on these, and right click, and I can go right click and say add dimensions. And all I need to do is at this point is just go ahead and set that business key for each one of these. So it's pretty straightforward, as you can see. Anyone, not just a data engineer, anyone who is understands their data, who knows what those keys are, they can go set them here, and all they do is then run those once the pipeline is built. So I'm going to do just one last one here so that we can run this.
Have dimensions for every table?
Just 4 tables.
Cool. I like how fast it was to just batch and then only take care of the business key.
Yeah, and I can also do things like, hey, do I want to, join these? Maybe orders and line items need to be joined. I can go create a join node and a work area for that. And again, I can apply rules here. In this case, we are working with 2 nodes, so I have to specify what that column is. So I would say ordered key is the join column. There's a bunch of code that's already put in for you. All you're selecting is the column, the column names.
And Coalesce knows the metadata to autocomplete.
Yes.
Line item, order key. Line item, order key.
Yeah, line item, order key. So those are all the tables that we created. Now I can go and say, create all these at once. So because this is a dev environment, I can do this many, many times until I get that right before I deploy. So I'm going to go just create everything and also run all these nodes at once. Now, these node types are simple to use, obviously. You can just select the configuration, but they're very powerful because these are patterns. Now, I'm going to show you another node type here in a second that's based on the Snowflake's Cortex functions. So a lot of times customers can go and change them or add their own node types. However, we provide a lot of these nodes out of the box. That's where our marketplace, Coalesce marketplace, comes into play. So for instance, I want to take this and add a forecasting node based on the order line item table. So I'm going to go here and look at my packages and see what I got installed. I have a base node types and I have streams and tasks package, but I need the Cortex one.
Yeah. And I like how streams and tasks are something very native to Snowflake.
That's
and
right.
Coalesce understands them.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
So if I browse the marketplace, this is where I can see not just those two packages. We have a whole bunch of packages. Cortex functions, the dynamic tables, again, base node types, we have already seen it. Data vault node types, people who build data vaults. Deferred merge, this is for merging real-time data with batch data. Dynamic tables, external data packages, incremental loading, and so on. So it's a very rich library of node types.
Yeah, and I know we're going to do Cortex now,
Yeah.
but it's very interesting that for people that love Data Vault, they have these packages pre-built for Coalesce, for Snowflake, and you can accelerate your transformation.
That's correct. And also you see this symbol here on the right-hand side. That means it's certified, which means we are going to support these. We're going to, customers, when they need to understand what this is, they have videos, they have documentation provided out of the box. So you can see all the documentation for Cortex nodes. Every property, every function, everything is readily available.
Beautiful. Coalesce certified.
Yeah, Coalesce certified. So the way that I'm going to get this into my workspace is all I need to do is just copy that package ID. And here I can go to install and paste that and give it an alias. And I'm going to say, I can also select the versions, which version, because we keep enhancing them as Snowflake enhances.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to just go install. So now that we have the Cortex nodes in our workspace, I can go right click, add node, and I can look at that Cortex nodes and say forecast. And again, on the right-hand side, you have the configuration. I can say, what's the name of the model? Forecast, orders, something like that. I can select a series column. Maybe I want to do this by customer. How many orders are they going to place in the future? I'm going to base on order date and do a target column, which is like, what are you forecasting? Maybe the price or total quantity, whatever that is. And then I can turn this off here and add like how many days I want to forecast. So you get the idea. I'm not going to run all of this, but that's the forecast node. You can do anomaly detection or other Cortex functions as well.
So Snowflake knows how to do predictions with Cortex, and Coalesce knows how to use these functions. And you can find in the marketplace, you can find modules that can do all of this.
Yes.
Super
Yes.
cool.
Just one example that I want to show how all of this work looks in a real world. I have another project here. Imagine a retailer's data. There's no data here, but it's a very big DAG. So you can see if I zoom out, you can see
Coalesce in action.
Yeah, Coalesce in action. So this is a much larger, complicated graph. And this is what people are working with, right? Now, how do I navigate this type of real world graphs when I'm building, when I want to understand what's happening? We have a couple of options. We have the subgraphs on the left-hand side where I can see, after this whole DAG. For example, I want to look at DIM events. So that's the portion that does the processing for DIM events, DIM price cost, and so on. So I can look at that way. The other option that we have is I can go, for example, search something quickly, like weight. I want to look for a table that has weight in it. So I found this stage node, and I can see that is somewhere here. You can see that's the one. So it's hidden there, but I want to understand more about that. So what I can do is I can filter this graph by dragging into that. And we have this language that you can use to filter the DAG any direction you want. So in this case, I'm saying, let's find out all the downstream objects for this. So you can see all the downstream objects of this node. So this is the stage node, and you can see all the downstream objects because we put the plus at the end. Now, if you put the plus in the beginning, it's going to do all the predecessors. So that's, you can quickly find out what it is dependent on. But not only that, I can go in here, and if I want to do it at the column level, I can see, like, for example, store weight. These are all the rules. I can right click and say view column lineage. Now, this is a very powerful feature that would bring how all of these columns are connected. This is very, very useful. As you can see, this store weight, for example, has a rule on it. It's coming from this column, this column, this column, and that columns are coming from other tables and so on. And you can also see how it's being used. This store weight, for example, stops here, then it becomes inventory weight, and then there's a case statement and so on. One last thing here is I can also take another column like this, which stops here, but it's not in any downstream objects. I can do propagation. Like I can say, hey, propagate this column forward into this table and this table and this table. It's going to go regenerate those tables, regenerate the code, and version the code for you automatically.
Just to see data modeling in real life, it gets so much more complex than the TPCH example. And this is real, and you are helping people navigate the whole lineage of how one column moves around and ends up in a result.
That's right. That's right.
Nice.
And the last thing here is the docs. So we generate very rich documentation because, once you have these kind of complex DAGs, you need to understand how they were built, and you need to get that single version of the truth so that, people who come on board, they can pick up, or business users who are using this, they need to understand. So just quickly here, you can see the documentation. I'm going to search again here. I can click on any one object. I can look at the overview. I can look at the columns and the definitions here, descriptions. I can look at the lineage. I can look at the scripts that were generated. Everything is in one place and searchable.
Yes. Everything is in Snowflake, but here's where you get to understand everything that you have.
That's correct.
Side question, just when people think of using Coalesce and they see facts and dimensions, how much do they need to know before coming here?
We are methodology agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So people can build dimensions and facts, or they might build one flat table and they can do a lot of processing. So we don't expect them to know like that. All they need to know is SQL, a bit of SQL, just to understand how it is, not even the detailed syntax, because they're not writing it, but they need to understand how databases work. And most importantly, what they need to know is what they're trying to build.
Exactly, what they're trying to build. And you are agnostic, but once they have chosen their favorite data modeling, you understand the concept. So who's developing for the Coalesce marketplace?
So today, in the first version of this Coalesce node marketplace, we built these certified nodes. We have put these nodes out there for the customers, but pretty soon we'll open it up to our customers to publish their own nodes if they want to share with other customers and or partners as well.
Share best practices with anyone.
Correct.
This is super cool. Anything else you would like to call out in the demo?
I think I can spend all day here to show you,
Yes.
but this is, we touched upon barely the surface, but some of the key things, I think.
How did you build this complex retailer demo?
Yeah, so this is, it's pretty awesome that we are able to build that type of complex thing. Again, it's the same idea, drag, drop, build, try it out. If it doesn't work, go back a step. Don't have to worry about, hey, I need to do all that work again. Am I doing this right? You don't have that pressure because it's so easy to rebuild again.
Yeah, but for me, I spend a lot of time with Snowflake, but I do a lot of small examples.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing how would I try to solve a problem like this? Where would I get the data? Well, you need to start working with the customer to get
That's
this
right.
kind of.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. So once you understand the data, then it's the mechanics of building it is pretty easy here.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And when you show this demo to data engineers or to CTOs, how do they react?
They get super excited. They get super excited.
Yes. Any favorite feature they have?
The one that I showed you where you can filter the graph, and most importantly, the column lineage.
Mm-hmm.
The column lineage is key because someone has built this, 6 months later, you hired somebody to look into this and they have to modify it. So that itself would take a lot of time. if you were writing all of this as code, you have to go into the code, sift through that, understand those dependencies. Here, with a couple of clicks, I can not only understand, but I can also make a change pretty quickly.
So I not only don't need anymore to have everything in my head, this can go to other teammates that might come, and this will help them understand everything.
That's right.
By the way, like 6 months ago, I want to say, I was a guest on your podcast.
Yes, you were.
We talked a lot about generative AI and how it's going to change things. How are things changing 6 months later?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that. That was a fun conversation on the LinkedIn Live with you. And similar to what we were describing when you came on, it was clear that AI has become an incredibly hot topic. Everybody, all executives are pressing on their data teams to incorporate AI into their use cases. That being said, the biggest challenge that all those organizations are struggling with is getting the data prepared in a way that's consumable, that's transparent through things like the lineage that Satish demonstrated here, in an efficient way. So that way those AI use cases are actually delivering from a data foundation that's accurate, persistent, and of high quality. And so one of the reasons why we were so excited about the Coalesce Marketplace launch was because it allows people of any skill set to really quickly build out their data foundation layer, and then supplementary, they're able to go and get access to the Cortex functionality that Snowflake has made available, but in such a simple, easy way.
Yes, it's not only simple, but it's documented.
Yes.
It's in a place where I can go back and modify and keep making changes. Speaking of changes, what else is changing? What are your customers asking you to deliver in the future?
Yeah. Satish, I'll let you take that one.
Yes, a few things that are happening. We're going to expand the marketplace. That's number one, because that is the super valuable for our customers. We are adding a scheduler that people can, today, although we provide all these APIs that people can just call from any scheduler. But for those companies who want a scheduler, there's a scheduler coming up. There's definitely a lot of exciting features that are built.
Yeah, I like how everyone needs a scheduler, and there are these open source schedulers
Correct.
too. But then they are always asking, build it in your product.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yes. So, and in this transformation process and bringing the future to everyone, how is Snowflake part of this story with Coalesce?
Yeah, absolutely. So Snowflake is adding some really exciting features. One of the things that Snowflake is adding is the Iceberg support. I can see our customers would have a need to use Iceberg along with Snowflake, and we're going to build that integration into the product as well, leverage that functionality.
Yeah, Iceberg is big in the ingestion part, but also with sharing with other platforms.
That's correct.
Nice.
Yeah. And the other thing is, again, we're at the core, we are a metadata-driven company. So we have a lot of rich metadata, but we want to take that to the next level. We want to collect a lot more metadata around data quality, data observability, relationships between entities, what are the primary keys, what are the business keys. So all that information that we collect, we can leverage that to automate, building even faster.
This was really exciting for me, and for people that want to learn more, where should they go?
Yeah, really easy. You can go to our website at coalesce.io. You can also find us on Snowflake Partner Connect if you want to start interacting with the product really quickly. Or you can find us on LinkedIn, either Satish or myself, our company page, or anybody at our company in general will be happy to help you on your Snowflake journey.
Excellent. I will be following both of you, and hopefully we'll have more conversations soon. Thank you so much for coming today. It's really cool for me to have both of you here.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. For more Snowflake developer content, go to developers.snowflake.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe.